Thank you, Greg. Um, I'm just going to read two poems. Most of my poems are written in free verse, but I thought tonight I'd read a couple that use rhyme or half rhyme. The first one is about one of the perils of political campaigning. So I suppose it's topical at the moment. You find out a lot of things when you're out canvassing. And one of the things that I discovered was that a large percentage of the population don't bother getting dressed at the weekends. It's a villanelle, sort of. On the doorstep. He stands there in his underpants and vest. I've asked him how he'll vote, against or for me. Neither of us mentions he's not dressed. I look him in the eye and do my best to blank out thoughts of him in all his glory. He stands there in his underpants and vest. Some doorbells you just wish you hadn't pressed. He could have stayed inside and just ignored me. Why don't these people bother to get dressed? I'm banking on his lack of interest. He needn't answer, it's not mandatory. He's answered in his underpants and vest. But no, he's got to talk. I might have guessed. He wants to know my views on all and sundry. I want to know why people don't get dressed. And why is it him? He's not the prettiest, and not some vamp or honey trapping Tory. He stands there in his underpants and vest, unsexy, unembarrassed, and not dressed. Okay, thank you. My next poem is one from my pamphlet, The War with Hannibal, which was published 18 months ago by Poetry Salzburg. It's about having my photograph taken. I don't photograph well, I have to admit. I'm far too self-conscious. If anyone points a camera at me, I freeze. I thought when I needed a photograph of myself, that the answer might be to have it taken professionally, that the photographer would at least know how to put me at my ease. And actually, the poem is loosely based on sessions with two different photographers at very, very different times. I did send a copy of the pamphlet to one of them as a courtesy. I never heard back, but no writs anyway. You have to imagine that I'm a woman photographer. It's called The Snapper. Sex is good for a laugh. Saying it, I mean, not doing the deed itself. It's what I use to pin a smile on a photograph when I'm trying to take a man. I tell him, don't say cheese, think about cheesecake instead. Then ignore the sleazy striptease that goes on inside his head, right the way down to, please hold it there, I said. Sometimes they're so slow. I mean, take that writer I got, the one that a magazine had asked for an author shot, dead pleased he was going to be seen, though I guess not by a lot. He said he'd have done it at home, except he couldn't quite, however he tried to frame them, get selfies looking right. I said he wasn't to blame, it was probably the light. Sex, I yelled at him, twice. But he'd need a full-on orgy, that one, to break the ice. A snail would have been more horny. I told him he'd bedroom eyes and asked if he'd do something for me. Chin up, no, chin down, lean towards me a bit. It's better when you don't frown, and try to hold still. That's it. It's good to get yourself known, but not as a photo fit. It always makes me stressed trying to choose which ones, like judging a beauty contest comprised entirely of clones. He'd asked me for 3 of the best, and with digital, I take tons. It's false modesty when they claim they never like to look. More likely they're so vain that nothing measures up. Shoot me now, they complain. Been there, done that, Chuck. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. That was marvellous. 2 very entertaining poems.